Hello everybody, and welcome to LRRTech. And today we're going to be talking about the card recognizer again. Now, those of you who have seen some of these streams before, you'll know that I have talked about the card recognizer before, but this is sort of an updated version of that, because previously when we've done these the streams like either the pre-release or the conspiracy draft or anything like that, we have been doing we have the previous version sort of this video, and people have asked about the card recognition system, and we've linked them to it. But the fact is that video is actually kind of out of date now. The card recognizer works in a slightly different way than we show there, or that I show there. And the good news is it works now in a simpler way, and it's a way that you can actually replicate at home by yourself. Well, I don't know, but by yourself, because that'd be kind of a weird magic game. But you can, on your own stream, it's something that you could do. And so what I'm going to do is the first part of this stream, I'm going to talk about exactly what we use here in terms of the hardware and software for doing the card recognition thing. And then in the second part of the stream, I'm going to talk about how to set a similar thing up for yourself, or at least get you started on that path. Obviously, it will require still does require some technical knowledge, but I would hope if you are the kind of streamer that wants to put in the time and effort to put card recognizer on your stream, then you are also somebody who has some technical knowledge in the streaming stuff. So, as you may have noticed, I am here in Studio A because that's where all this stuff is located. So let me first talk about how we actually did, how we do the capture for our actual, for the Magic games. So what we use, so there's sort of 4 components to the card recognition system. There's the software that actually recognizes, so there's obviously like a camera that points at the play mat. There's the software that is that takes that image from the camera and recognizes the card on it. There's the piece that's actually on the overlay, like the card, and then there is a sort of piece of glue technology between those. Is actually a node server that runs in order to basically allows the recognizer system to talk to our overlay. So now what I'm going to demonstrate, I'll demonstrate right now. I see just activated the card viewer. That might actually, let's see, should I do, that might not work just for what I'm doing right now, just because I'm doing it in a slightly different way than we normally do it. But anyway, so to start off with, I'm just going to switch to a wide shot of the room here and show you what, similar to what we had on the stream yesterday. Not yesterday, Sunday. So let's just switch to the wide shot here. have my sweet disembodied voice. So you can see here, you just back up a little bit. We've got our playmat, which is on the table here, and there's two overhead cameras. One that's actually capturing the game, which is what you see in the videos, and that's what you see on the overlay. And we also have the camera right here, which is the recognition camera, and that allows us to put the card here, and you can see on the capture software here, it shows up there. And if I go over here and go to show the card, you can see that it has picked up that card, and I can switch through all the different cards. I can switch through various different cards as you go. Different card, different card, different card, different card. And it's quite quick, which is cool. Now, there are different ways of doing, so the software that we use to do this, here, let me switch to, see if this works. Ooh, multi-view. Okay, so there's there's different ways there's different pieces of software that you can use to do the actual recognition. The one that we use is called Deck Builder, and let me just take the card off there so it isn't just constantly recognizing it. Now, there are different ways to do card recognition, by which I mean the actual computer vision aspect of card recognition, and it's cool that we're actually at the stage now where there are a couple of different Magic specific card recognition systems out there. The reason why we use Deck Builder is one, it's for Windows, which a lot of them are for like iOS or Android or stuff like that. And the other part is, and the other aspect is that they've, we've talked to them and actually worked with them on it, and they've added certain features to help us make it better for the overlay and for the streaming. And then the third aspect of it is the way that Deck Builder does the recognition process. Now, if you, it's funny, I look at, often when people are talking about these, our streams, on Reddit or on different Magic places, and people talk about, that people really like that we do the card recognition stuff. There's sort of speculation about how one would do a card recognition system. And it's one of those very, I think if I was somebody who built a card recognition system, I would find it very annoying that it seems to be one of those things that's people like to kind of backseat program. I don't know, whatever the equivalent is, or they sort of go, oh yeah, it's easy. What you do is you just load up the software, load in the things, and you're done. It turns out obviously to be a lot more complicated than that. And there's different ways of doing it. Now, one thing you can do is make a specific Magic card recognizer, which would be something that, grabs the card and then maybe zeroes in on where the the set symbol is on it, recognizes the set symbol, and then can recognize the picture, or something like that, so that it would be very fast in terms of, but it would only work for just Magic cards. The disadvantage to that, and I've actually used a system that does that, and the big advantage to that is that it can find cards. It can search a huge database of cards. There's something like 30,000 Magic cards, and it can search that database very quickly because it knows a bunch of Magic specific information. It knows that where to find the titles of cards. It knows where to find the set symbol. It knows that it can narrow it down by color or by picture or different things like that. So it can narrow things down very quickly. The downside to that is that, one, it doesn't work with anything except Magic cards, and two, it tends to be a lot more picky about how it sees the card. For instance, in every card recognition system I've used like that needs to see the whole border of the card. So like if you hold the card like this, it won't actually work because it can't see the edges of the card. So it'll usually these systems will need to have some sort of some sort of plain background behind the card. That probably wouldn't even work. Which makes it just takes that extra little time when people are playing that makes it a little more awkward, which we're trying to avoid, and it sometimes isn't quite as fast. What I really love about the deck builder system is that it's kind of, in some ways, it's kind of a dumb system, and I don't mean that in an insulting way, but it's doing it in sort of a brute force way, where it just looks for, it's got a big database of the images of all the cards, and it just is looking for that image. And if it finds it, it locks it in as a card. And what's great about that is it can find stuff very, very quickly regardless of what the background is. It doesn't need the full card. It can do partial cards. It can do cards at angles. It's very, very flexible. Downside is that it's very susceptible to as the quality, as the search range of cards goes up, it takes a lot longer to search than normally you would find, and so you can run into a situation where it takes too long to search for the card, and so obviously that is not good. The DeckCam program that we use is currently limited to 4 sets. There we go. So it can search 4 sets at once, which for like a draft or whatever is totally fine. Here, let me switch over to it. So I'm using a little webcam here instead of the overhead camera, just so I can be sitting here while I'm doing it. And you can see that because of that, it's quite quick. If I actually put things in the right spot, you can see there's a sort of a light area that's the area that it's actually looking at. And so it can find stuff very quickly. And it can find stuff that is, it can find stuff, it doesn't matter if the card is sideways. Maybe it doesn't like that one. Oh, that's because it's from, see, this is I was like, it's not doing that one. That's because this is a Dark Ascension card, and I haven't loaded the Dark Ascension stuff in. But if I load, here's a Mirrodin Besieged card, which I did load. There's that. So it can do it at different angles, do stuff. So it's very the card recognition thing is really good for what we need, which is for drafts and stuff. But obviously, it is not. It's not perfect for every situation. So, and it's good that you have different ways of doing card stuff. Yeah, let's see if I. Wait, no. That's the threshold as down as it will go. Probably doesn't see me as a card, sadly. I have had to pick up weird things as a card, So that's why we use this program, Deck Builder. And what's really neat is this was a program that I had decided on using a long time ago, or not a long time ago, but I had experimented with different programs, and this is the one that I kind of settled on. And then after I'd already sort of settled on it, I talked back to, I contacted the developers of it, and when we were doing the first pre-release, and they turned out to be super cool and very enthusiastic about helping us with it. And so they've made some changes to the program and built some custom software for us to help with doing the pre-releases and making our system a little bit better. So that's, I think. Oh, and then so what happens is, you know, the card recognizer finds the card we want, and then it takes that card. It takes the multiverse ID for that card and sends it to the overlay. So it sends it to a special other piece of our little HTML page that's on the overlay, and that will allow us to show it. But sometimes, if you've watched like Tap Tap Concede, our podcast, we'll often be wanting to put cards up on the overlay that aren't from the recognizer. You know, they'll just be cards that people will be talking about. And so the other part of the card overlay system is being able to override cards and being able to put our own cards on or whatever we want. And that's where this over here comes into play, which is another Dear Dr. Paul, why didn't you credit them during the pre-release? We did. They're in the ad rotation. We give them special thanks because we definitely want to thank them a lot. And also, if people asked about it, there's a thing in the chat that tells them what the card recognition system is. So Flamil 7, yes, we do indeed. We have said what the company is. I guess because things were running over, we didn't do as many ad breaks as we normally do, so maybe that didn't quite come across. But so we can, so I can drag and drop. If I drag and drop an image over here, boop, that will also go onto here, and so I can override what the card recognizer sees by dragging and dropping onto this thing here, and then and then if I want to go back to recognizing cards from the recognizer, I can hit remove override, and it will go back to using cards from the recognizer. And this also allows me to clear it so that you know, between games or whatever, it'll switch back to just the card back like that. Now, the last aspect of this is a part that I'm not actually responsible for at all, which is the LRRBot integration. And I don't really have anything to show for that because that's not what all my part of the LRRBot integration is. I have the same system that sends the card to the overlay can be configured so that it also sends it to the LRRBot, so LRRBot can put it up on the overlay after a suitable delay. I think we worked it out to be about 30 seconds. You considered a site like mtg.wtf that has higher quality scans than Gatherer. The nice thing, Gatherer, well, for one thing, Gatherer is a nice sort of canonical source for stuff, just because it is the official place. But we do also use, we have used magiccards.info scans a lot, and various other places. The nice thing about the way this is set up is it's kind of agnostic, you know, I'm in terms of when I'm doing the overrides, I can override to any different any image that I want. Actually, it doesn't even have to be a magic card, but it's sort of set up for magic cards. And that's actually one aspect of the card recognition system is obviously it is set up for magic cards because that's what the people who have designed it do. But it is actually sort of an agnostic system that if you load in the recognition data for anything else, for like a different card game, then it will recognize those cards just as well. So the one aspect of this that is not something that, so LRRBot, you know, the integration between LRRBot is not something I did. It is available on, and Corp just linked it there, the GitHub stuff, which is it's a Python thing that loads up a database from, I believe it's from Gatherer, and so it can show the stuff. There's one aspect of this, though, that you wouldn't be able to replicate by yourself at home, and that's the, we have a system where we can make customized database files. So you see here on the, in the deck builder thing, there's this big list down the side of all the sets in Magic. And so you can have up to 4 of those selected at once. Now, the issue that we've run into is that, one, when we're doing the pre-release, that set hasn't actually been released yet. So obviously, it's not in their database. And then the other aspect is if we're doing something like a grab bag draft or the cube draft, we don't have. It's not just one set, it's like a whole bunch of sets. And so because you can only have 4 sets selected at once, we don't have a way of recognizing those cards. And so we actually have a piece of software that Deck Builder made for us that generates new sort of dictionary files or whatever they're called orb files, but new definition files based on just like a folder of images. So we can load up whatever images we want into the system, and then it'll start recognizing those. So that aspect is not one, and that's a piece of software that that Deck Builder made for us. It's sort of not mine to release. It's something that is super cool, and it would be neat if they could add that functionality into the program or release it themselves. You know, feel free to ask them about it. But it's so that is one aspect that you wouldn't be able to do if you had this yourself, if you set this up yourself. Although I mean, if one were being tricky about it, I think it wouldn't be that hard to figure out yourself. But in any case, it's as long as what you want to do is like a draft or even standard is most you can probably get by with 4 sets, maybe not quite, but as long as what you want to do is limited to only 4 sets, then this system will work great for you. So I hope that's a kind of a description of how we do our stuff. The big difference and the big sort of complications, I guess, that we have when we do our stuff is, for one thing, we've got the, like if I can show you the overhead view that is, you know, that would be like a gameplay shot, is obviously quite a bit zoomed out. Whereas when we are doing when we do the card recognition, we only want that center logo piece. So we have a second camera pointed directly at that with a zoom lens on it. Oh, the audio is doubled in that view. Oh, probably because there we go. That's better. Sorry. And and then the other aspect is we have it connected to LRRBot. But other than that, this is something that you can do yourself. And how you would do it yourself. So Popper Plebeian, yeah, using this custom built software, the custom sort of orb generator software, we can load in whatever cards we want. So, and I have a little script that will take a list of cards and grab all the images for those cards and load them into the database. So now I want to talk about how you would do this yourself. And in order to facilitate that, I have put up on GitHub I have put up on my GitHub a version of the software that we use. This is not the exact software we use or the exact scripts that we use, because they have some extra stuff in them for like talking to LRRBot and running some of the overlay stuff. But this is sort of a this is a script that's or a set of scripts that's just the recognizer stuff. And so if you go to that URL, github.com/Paul-LRR/nifty recognizer, which if you've seen any of the other LRRTech stuff, I've got into the habit of any software or scripts and stuff that I make, I call it nifty whatever. So the and on that GitHub, if you want to play along at home, you will see that it's a node server, which is just basically that little connection piece that I was talking about. So, and then it's there's the card recognition, or the card viewer, which is this thing up here, which is just a HTML page that shows the current card and connects to the node server. And then there's the card controller, which is this piece right here, that allows you to drag and drop images and clear the recognizer and that kind of stuff. Could you possibly use this to generate a list of cards that I've scanned? So the for those of you who don't know, because that's not how I use it, but Deck Builder is supposed to be a program for cataloging your collection or your decks or whatever. And from what I understand, it works quite well for that. And then you use the card recognizer to to add cards to your collection really quickly, which I understand works quite well. And so what I'm using it for, sorry, and what you would be using it for is sort of a slight hack on what you would normally do. But yeah. Let me just see here what other information I can give you. It's a little bit difficult to talk about this. I don't know what your level of experience using Node and stuff is. One aspect of this is that, as you hopefully know, we stream using XSplit and we do that for a variety of reasons. It works well for us in various different ways. and what aspect, and one of the things we can do with it is like make like plugins that do all sorts of fancy things. However, the card recognition system doesn't actually use that aspect of it. So it works great in XSplit because you can put the card viewer into XSplit as an HTML source. But if you're using, for example, OBS can also use HTML sources, and so you would just put it into OBS in the same way. And I see no reason why it wouldn't work. So let me just think here. What is the best way of doing that? Oh, so how the whole system works. If you saw the original card recognition video that I did, I had a whole thing about a really tricky way that I was doing the communication aspect. So it would actually intercept when the card recognition system, when Deck Builder requested the price of the card that it had just scanned. I had a script that would intercept that request and redirect it to my system so that I could use it for the overlay. And obviously that was like that was definitely like a hack, and it mostly worked, but it was kind of janky. And one thing that has been added to Deck Builder, which is sort of an undocumented feature because it's not something that most people need, and it's not part of the actual what the software is sort of being marketed as, so they haven't really talked about it. But it has the capability. It has a built-in capability to send the cards that it recognizes to a user-specified URL, and so. As I say, I have it written on the GitHub page, and hopefully it's makes relatively good sense. But basically, you can go into your the Deck Builder configuration file and add a special directive to it, which is the orbcam match URL directive. If I let me just drag this over here so I can talk about this. So if you add this line into your configuration file, it is a sort of undocumented feature of the Deck Builder software that it will then send the multiverse ID, which is the unique ID for every card that Wizards makes, and it can be it'll send it to a URL that you specify, which in this case is localhost/cardmatch, and then in the and so localhost means the server that is running on the local computer, and then the /cardmatch is just a URL that is useful, is to separate it from anything else. And so then the server system is just waiting for things to be sent to cardmatch, and then it has cardmatch / and then the zeros, or the zero in the curly braces there is then replaced by the multiverse ID of the card, and so then the server gets the card from that, and that's how it works. So hopefully that's useful to you, and I'd be very curious to see if anybody makes anything is able to use. I mean, certainly is able to use my software, or use the server and script stuff to do your own card recognition setup. Obviously, you don't need as fancy a setup as we have with the overhead cameras and stuff. We've got we're just doing it. I was showing you with this is just like a little webcam. You can see, whoop, and that works great. In fact, the card recognition system or Deck Builder is really designed for a webcam kind of camera as opposed to a really fancy camera like we have. We actually, the fancy camera that we have is actually not only overkill, but we have to actually cut the resolution of it down to send it to Deck Builder because Deck Builder doesn't like dealing with really high resolution video because they haven't optimized it for that because they never expected you to be using it kind of stuff. So, a webcam works great for it. You can have a webcam, on a little stand pointed down at the table. That works fine. So you can do all sorts of stuff. And yeah, so I'd be very interested if anybody makes something out of it. And if you have any questions about the overlay setup, or if you have any questions about wanting to integrate it into your, a Magic game that you're running, I would be happy to help out however I can. I mean, I can't sort of do I don't know what your specific setup is, so everyone's setup is going to be a little different, but I can help however I can. So yeah, I think. Oh, and yeah, if you do end up using the Deck Builder software, either for some recognition thing of your own, or for its actual intended purpose, which is cataloging your deck and stuff. Obviously, make sure that it is commercial software, very inexpensive. So it's like $10 or something. So it's definitely worth purchasing. And I think they limit it for. They don't give you all the sets. There's like a demo version that you can try out, but I don't think they give you all the sets. Or there's some limitation with the demo version. Anyway, it's a very reasonably cost piece of software that I would highly recommend because it does a real good job. So yeah, I think that's all I wanted to talk about. You can contact me. My email's paul@loadingreadyrun.com if you want to do that. Or if you if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm interested to see if anybody else does it. It's one of those things where it's like we love watching Magic streams here at Loading Ready Run. We often have a Magic stream like just up on the TV, and so it's in our best interest to make other Magic streams better because we watch them as well as consume them, or as well as create them. And so that's sort of the purpose of the trying to be sort of as open as possible about this kind of stuff, so that maybe other people can do it too, because and maybe other people will figure out better ways of doing it. And then if you find out a better card recognition system that's more reliable, or does it faster, or can do larger sets or whatever, I'd be very interested to see that too. So. Is it possible to set up the recognizer to detect multiple cards at once? The current system, no, it doesn't work that way. There's nothing theoretically preventing somebody to make one that would do that. But obviously it would require significantly more processor power to be recognizing a bunch of stuff at once. So the Deck Builder, and as far as I know, I don't think there are any card recognition systems that can do multiple cards at once. But that would be a really interesting idea. And if anybody does come up with something like that, I'd be very interested to see it. Yeah, so that's all I wanted to talk about. It's a fairly short LRRTech, and the idea is that hopefully this will go up this will go up on our YouTube replay channel as a sort of a replacement for the old card recognition tutorial video, explanation video, so that people have the up-to-date information. And I hope that's useful to you. And tonight, so yeah, stay tuned for tonight. It's going to be Crossing the Streams, which I believe will be Beige and Heather playing a game called Chariot. I don't know anything about it, but it looked kind of neat from the trailer I saw. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And then tomorrow morning we'll be doing 18 games and counting with James. So I will talk to all y'all later. Bye.